live. Welcome to the MLB Strategy Show All-Star Game Edition. I am Josh Engelman. I am joined by Adam Scherer, and we are going to do our best to break down this All-Star Game from a DFS perspective. So let's start here. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. We're going to have some fun for this next hour. Adam, how are you?
I'm good. I am on a semi-vacation, taking time out to talk about this. So yeah, I'm good. How are you doing?
I mean, yeah, I'm tired, but otherwise we're going to be all right. Isn't your life pretty much always a semi-vacation?
Yeah, my life is basically always a vacation, and I'm taking time out to talk about whatever.
Yeah, it's a good life, man. It's a good life. I could relate. Mine is basically the same, so I can't complain too much. I'm happy to do it. We have a lot to talk about. This is a weird one. DFS from a DraftKings and FanDuel perspective, very different for this game, and we'll get into the intricacies there. But I think the best place to start right now is this. What did you think of the home run derby last night?
I thought the home run derby was awesome. Like, I like the home run derby in general. It's always been like my favorite part of the All-Star game, and probably like one of my favorite parts of like any All-Star games, like any sports All-Star game. But I thought last night was great. Like, they had a really, really good just group of players in terms of being fun and being really good, like the guys that you actually want to watch, but also like entertaining guys. And then obviously like you got the cool story with Mancini going further than people expected, and all of that. You got Alonso just being an absolute animal. You got the really cool, double overtime between Soto and Ohtani. I thought it was really, really fun.
Shout out to me in particular for picking Pete Alonso on the breakfast menu. You can catch that video Monday through Friday, sometime in that brunch window. But yeah, I hit the Alonso outright on the home run derby, so I felt pretty good. Do you like the format of the home run derby now in comparison to what it used to be?
Yeah, I do. I mean, the obvious flaw is like Salvador Perez just getting absolutely boned on not advancing because he got matched up with Peter Alonso. But I think it, like that's obviously the part that sucks, but overall I think it's good because like one-on-one stuff to me is just fun. It's more fun sweating, like like for example in the first round, Mancini versus Olsen, where Olsen's last home run goes like just foul and he's down by one home run on Mancini. That you don't get that like level of excitement if you're just doing the the top four hitters advance or whatever. You still feel like, oh well, that would have been better if it was fair, but there's no like direct way to know that, like, no, that had to be fair for him to advance.
Yeah, that I do agree. It creates this added intrigue every two guys, basically. Instead of just having this big bucket of people, you create little pockets of like anxiety basically while you're watching. And that's always going to be a little bit more interesting. Anything you don't like about the home run derby? If you could change anything, is there anything that you could think of right out of the gate?
I don't think so. Okay, why does everybody get the 30-second bonus? Like, to me, that seems dumb, because so they did it like you get 30 seconds automatically, and then if you hit one 475 feet, you get another 30 seconds. I would rather it just be like if you don't hit one 475 feet, you don't get any more time, and if you do, you get a minute or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, same thing more or less, but sure.
Yeah, but it's just like, I don't know. It doesn't change any. Yeah, like it doesn't change anything, but it's like, I don't know. It just, like, the OCD part of me, I guess it annoyed me the entire night that like you get a 30-second bonus, but it's not a bonus because everybody gets it. So why aren't we just adding 30 seconds onto the time?
Yeah, I don't really like it. I don't want to penalize the short hitters, No,
it's like, I mean, it's a home run derby,
right? But like my bonus is not going to be based on distance. It honestly, it should probably be based on like aggregate home runs.
Yeah, you could, but then you're doing it like. It's like kind of offsetting it. That would knock down some of the excitement because it's like, oh, the guy that already has 50 home runs gets to hit more. Like,
is that a problem though? Because I think back to like when McGuire went on that run where he just kept hitting home run after home. Like that's the one that stands out to me in my mind.
Right. Yeah, like,
being more of a kid,
it would make it fun because like you could watch them keep hitting, but it wouldn't change the like competition. Tyler just mentioned it, and I was going to say the same thing. Maybe adding in something like streaks. Like so, like you get 30 seconds if you hit one 475 feet, but you also get 30 seconds if you hit like 6 in a row or something like that. So like maybe multiple ways, increase
the length cutoff, but add multiple ways to acquire it. Yeah, I'd like that.
500 plus feet, 8 straight home runs, something like that.
I've got another potential idea. Can we do it like NBA Jam where you get on fire and there's like a fireball that's worth more than one home run?
Yeah, like that would be good. You could have the pitcher light the ball on fire and make it even better.
I'm not saying that it has to be on fire or anything like that, but it sort of like Rock and Jock had the 8-ball. So you get 8 runs if you go yard with it. He's on fire for 3 straight, and then every home run after that is worth 2 or something. I'd be down for that. That'd be amazing.
I think that works. Because
I love it.
Because you could do it. So like you get the bonus if you hit it 500 plus feet or 475 plus feet or whatever, but then you get in-round bonuses like that, where like if you're on fire, you don't get extra time at the end, but the ones you're hitting while you're on fire are getting you more points.
I love it. MLB, call me, man. I'll probably send it straight. It'll probably come up as spam on my phone if I had to guess, but that's neither here nor there. Either way, Home Run Derby was fun. I'm happy to watch it. I'm going to be perfectly honest, one of the few entertaining things about the middle of July and baseball. We are entering the slog of the season, but we do get one more fun thing to talk about, and that would be the All-Star game itself. But before we do that, we got to at least talk a little bit about Awesemo.com. We're going to have projections for the All-Star game. Keep your eyes peeled for that. You can use the promo code MLB Strategy Show, one gigantic word. You can get 25% off your first week of Awesemo Plus. If you want to see what we have behind the paywall, that's a perfect opportunity for you. Premium Slack, player projections, ownership projections, advanced tools like the Top Stacks tool, Top Pitchers tool, the Top Stacks tool in NFL, which is going to be here very shortly. You definitely want to get in for us soon. Obviously, we're hitting a little bit of a lull right now. It's basically baseball and not much else going on, but the NFL is right around the corner. We've got a ton of NFL content already prepped. We're not all that far away from preseason NFL contests. You want to keep your eyes peeled for that. But once we get the NFL going, it's big stuff around here. So again, MLB Strategy Show is that promo code. All right, for the game itself, the National League, slight favorites right now, minus 115 last I looked. The American League, plus 106. Over under 11 runs, which is kind of fun for an all-star game in Coors. The last all-star game we had, 2019, 4-3 final. AL picks up the win. We're going to dive into the logistics of DraftKings, the logistics of FanDuel. We're going to take a little bit of a look at this previous box score. The first thing that stands out to me is how many different people simply took an at-bat for the NL, which was 20, which is bonkers to me. Everybody batted either once or twice. Nobody stepped up to the plate 3 times. Only one person batted 3 times for the AL. That was Carlos Santana. Do you read into the 2019 or like past box scores more, or do you just see this as sort of like a one-off event each year?
No, I mean, I think the general strategy that teams take probably isn't going to change all that much. You also, have this in a National League park, so I don't know necessarily there's going to be more pinch hitting because there really can't be. But I don't know. I think for the most part, teams try and get all the bats in. They try and get most of the arms in at least. It's obviously a little bit more difficult to get every pitcher in, but I expect it to be more or less the same where, the hitters that are there, they're gonna try and get them at bat or at least, to pinch run or something like that.
Do you think they should play the game like that?
Yeah. To me, there's no real reason not to. I mean, like, they're so similar in terms of talent for the most part. Like, obviously there's a few guys that are head and shoulders above the rest, but it's I think it's good because especially with the way like fan voting is in baseball or with the way all-star game selection is, in a lot of cases you get guys that are starting that aren't actually having the best season. They just happen to play for the Red Sox or the Yankees or whoever. So I think that it's really good to like keep the other fans engaged. Like I'd be less likely to, I mean, he's obviously starting now, but I'd be, if I were like a casual Orioles fan, I'd be much less likely to watch this game if I was just like, yeah, cool, Cedric Mullins is going to sit on the bench all game, than knowing that he's going to get at least one of that somewhere.
That's fair. I wonder if there's something that they could do, because obviously no one cares about the Pro Bowl any longer for the NFL. That is just a dead all-star game. The NBA all-star game, though, is massive. And generally speaking, the fourth quarter of the All-Star game is usually played pretty legitimate. Like, they're playing a little bit less defense, obviously, but they try to functionally turn that into real basketball, at least down the stretch. I don't really know if there's anything baseball could do to do that. And I don't really know if it would be all that captivating if they did.
Well, and I mean, the thing with baseball too is like, it's still, and kind of the nice thing, I guess, about baseball in terms of an all-star game compared to like the Pro Bowl or even the NBA all-star game, you're still playing defense. You're still pitching. Like, the pitcher is not going out there and lobbing batting practice and risking getting hit in the face by a line drive. Like, he's still going to pitch, which is of course like the equivalent of defense. So the only real way that the late innings aren't like quote unquote a normal game, or that the hitters are slightly worse, because you're talking about the all-star reserves instead of the all-star starters. But in terms of like the actual gameplay, it's still competitive baseball, as far as like, the shortstop isn't going to like try and catch the ball between his legs or something. He's going to catch it if it's hit to him. Like, there's no lack of defense. Yeah,
that is an interesting point. MLB has to be played like straight up the most of any of these all-star games, which is kind of crazy to think about, except for when you get like, people flipping their helmet around and getting into the opposite side of the box, but that's one pitch. We're not talking about any, like, pitchers are going up there to try to get you out. Hitters are going up there probably to try to hit a home run. Like, it's not a lot of wiggle room for baseball. Eric Johnson wants you to put a hat on.
Yeah, I wish I had brought one with me.
All right. I think it's time for us to dive in and start talking a little bit about this. So we're going to touch on DraftKings first, and we'll get into FanDuel after that. And the first thing I want to land with is the optimal lineup from 2019 on DK. It scored. So obviously these are like showdown slates. We've got a captain, 5 flex on DraftKings. The optimal captain from 2019's game was Shane Bieber. We then had 5 hitters, 4 of which came from the AL. It was Brantley, Sanchez, Polanco, Bregman, and then Marte finished as the lone NL representative. Bieber, in that All-Star game, and this is the key piece we want to touch on, pitched 1 inning and got 3 strikeouts. 15.4 fantasy points in the captain spot was enough to get it done. How does that sort of information, knowing that a pitcher that simply strikes out the side is enough to be the optimal captain in just 1 inning, how does that form your opinions for the slate?
I mean, it doesn't change a whole lot for me, because I think it points to the fact that there's going to be a ton of variance on the slate, which everyone understands. It's an all-star game where guys are getting 1 or 2 at bats and pitchers are throwing 1 inning at a time. But the thing is, like, that game only scored 7 runs. So of course, the relative value of a pitcher striking out 3 guys goes up a lot when there were 2 home runs hit in the game. Blackmon hit 1 and Gallo hit 1. So if you're expecting it to be a low-scoring game, then of course pitchers play a bigger role. But you have an 11-run total here. I don't know what the line was for the game in 2019, but with this game being in cores, you expect there to be more scoring. So I think that the game being in cores and the fact that we have no idea what the hell to expect out of pitchers right now. Like, don't forget that part. Like, I don't think they're loading them up with pine tar for this game. Maybe they are, but
I hope they check every pitcher. It'd be hilarious. They'd be so pissed. Scherzer would be naked out there.
Right. Yeah. So, like, I have no idea if they're enforcing that or not, but I assume even the pitchers aren't going to want to go back to using it for like 1 game and, lose any consistency that they've had in the regular season at this point. So point being, I think the pitcher volatility is going to be even higher, because like we've seen in the regular season, we have no idea what the hell to expect from these guys. Scherzer got blown up in his last start. Ohtani has not been great lately, and those are the 2 guys starting here. So in addition to the park, I think there's just so many other factors that potentially contribute to the offense being better here than it was in 2019. And that, of course, would lower the value of pitchers and make it so you're very unlikely to get a guy going 1 inning and being the optimal captain.
By the way, I was wrong on the contents of that lineup, but it was still the same makeup. It was Bieber at the captain spot, Gallo, Brantley, Sanchez, Bregman, and then Charlie Blackmon. Read the wrong lineup out for reasons that I'm not entirely sure of. So from a scoring perspective, Aroldis Chapman actually was the highest scorer in that game on DK. He had 17.9 fantasy points. Bieber was second, but Chapman, hilariously, was more expensive than Bieber. Then you got Gallo and Blackmon in as hitters, and you got to Liam Hendricks. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys scored more than 10 fantasy points. Would your expectation be that you are taking a pitcher in the captain spot?
I don't think so, just because of what I was saying. Like, I expected more offense in this game than there was in that game. And I think that's the entire reason that the pitching worked. Like, granted, pitchers are cheap, as they should be, but, you still, I think if you're playing, and this could be wrong, it's just kind of my thoughts. If you're playing multiple lineups here, I still think I would rather be like taking shots on reserve hitters than pitchers, because it's just, it's obviously going to be difficult to nail down which one does well. But, looking at guys, there's hitters that are like 5K compared to pitchers that are 4,800, and, that you're assuming you're going to pitch one inning. I would rather take my chances that one of these random bats hits a home run or, doubles and scores or something, than try and guess, which pitcher is going to strike out the side, when I think that there's going to be more scoring in this game than there was last game. One other side note, because it just came up in chat, at least on DraftKings, Shohei Ohtani is only getting hitter points tonight.
Yeah, that is a very big piece that we need to talk about, because obviously starting the game and hitting leadoff. So everything that he accrues in that first inning on the mound is totally useless. How many people do you think roster Shohei Ohtani not knowing that?
A lot.
Yeah, even with the big banner at the top of the DraftKings entry saying he will not accrue fantasy pitching points, which is now the time that we do this conversation. How is it possible to be so incompetent that you can't add both sides of this game together as a human being?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of don't. I'm in the camp that hates fun and doesn't think Ohtani should get points for both. But
interesting.
Yeah. I will say that the banner DraftKings has up right now, a lot of people are going to miss it because they just threw up one banner that's like really clunky, and the first it's like 2 bullet points and
Ohtani's second.
Yeah, so you start reading it and it's just like, to draft non-probable starters, deselect. Like, anyone that's like familiar with how to use DraftKings is going to start reading that and say, oh yeah, I know that, and not even read the Ohtani part. Yeah,
because I think it's not even up for debate. Shohei Ohtani is the best play on the slate if you're allowed to count his pitching points too. Yeah, like his ownership would be through the roof. It's probably going to be through the roof either way. How do you feel about Ohtani today?
Not great. So I think he probably goes, at least to some extent, a little bit over-owned, because there's going to be some percentage of people that think they're getting pitcher points from him.
Yeah.
So, like, of course he's a good option, but I think there's just a good chance, we don't have ownership projections right now, but my guess is just that whatever the percent chance is that Ohtani is one of the best hitters, the ownership is just going to come in over that, because you're going to have some percentage of people, not only because of, just the fact he's a household name, and anyone who's just casually playing this and clicking in names is going to click on Shohei Ohtani, but there's also going to be some percentage of people that think they're getting pitcher points. So it's just going to like drive up his ownership, I think, relative to whatever his chances of success are.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page there. Obviously, he's going to pitch the first inning. I can't imagine he's throwing anything more than just that one individual inning. My assumption is that he probably gets 2 plate appearances. Obviously he's going to get the first one. He's leading off, and then wouldn't shock me if he got the second one. And that's that's it for Ohtani moving forward.
Yeah. And also, I mean, and it may not have an impact anyway, because like you were saying, you're probably getting 1 inning pitching regardless. You're getting 1 or 2 at bats, but him being in the home run derby last night and expending energy makes me think they probably err on the side of not pushing him in this game as well.
Okay. Interesting. Interesting to think about.
And really the reason I thought about it was he mentioned, even going into the home run derby last night, that he expected to be exhausted for tonight's game. So it's kind of, the last thing you want is someone like Ohtani to take a bad swing because his mechanics are off because he's tired. So, I could definitely see it where maybe if they're kind of on the fence, like, does he get that second at bat, where they're just like, yeah, we'll put somebody else in for him.
So we can't take Ohtani as a pitcher, as we've established. Who does stand out to you as a potential captain option? Is that something where are you even looking at salary, or are you just trying to think like, these are the guys that I think are going to have a decent day? Because in the grand scheme of things, everybody works. This is a lot different than taking captains and say like an NBA game. This is an all-star game where everyone plays. How much does salary matter to you just in general?
Not too much, because I think there's going to be, like you said, you're still going to be able to fit basically, who you want into your lineup. Like, if you throw Fernando Tatis is the most expensive guy. If you throw him in at captain on DraftKings, you still have $6,940 per position. There's plenty of guys that you can use to, kind of increase that a little bit, and you more or less can get the guys that you want. So I'm not too concerned about salary. To me, it's more about just getting guys that you think are going to do well.
Casey Wilson said, is he technically the DH? If not, he should only get one at bat, right? He is technically the DH. He can stay in the game once he's no longer the pitcher.
No, also, is that the case?
I'm like 99% sure that I saw that on something yesterday.
The only reason I question it is because I thought I remembered, like in the regular season, commenting that it's really stupid that Ohtani doesn't get to be the DH. Like when he comes out of pitching, he's replaced by the pitcher, I thought.
I don't think that's the case. I think he's going to be able to bat twice. I don't know where I saw that yesterday, but like I'm pretty sure I saw that.
That's definitely possible. I'll say, like, I clearly haven't paid much attention to Angels games in that regard lately, but it was definitely something that came up at the beginning of the season where even like the Angels manager was talking about them having to kind of like think about the strategy of like what to do with Ohtani, and his lineup spot.
So Norm Bothwell in chat said, yes, they're making an exception that Ohtani can stay in after he's done pitching. Yeah. I knew that I saw it somewhere. My mind is mush at this point in time. So who actually stands out to you as a potential captain? Or do people even stand out to you as potential captains? Is that even a thing?
Yeah, I don't think people really stand out. Like if there's, to me, it's just like take the most relevant, take the best hitters you can that you think are going to not be as popular, because you're talking about like there's variance in the regular season because these guys are getting 4 or 5 at bats in a game. You're talking about 1 or 2 against good pitching also. So to me, it's just like ownership is all I really care about in a slate like this.
So looking back at 2019, I'm just going to go through the NL. Yelich, 2 plate appearances. Baez, 2 plate appearances. Freeman, Bellinger, Arenado, Bell, Contreras, Marte, Acuna. Every single guy that started for the NL batted twice. Nobody batted more than that. For the AL side, Brantley only got 1 plate appearance. And then that's it. Everybody else got at least 2. Carlos Santana got 3. So to me, my first thought is I'm going to have a really hard time not taking someone that started. I'm going to be looking for the assumption that I'm getting 2 plate appearances out of every single starter. And then I'm going to work my way down in salary, or just work my way down through the guys that I don't think are likely to be picking up as much ownership. Does that make any sense to you? Am I crazy?
No, it makes complete sense because obviously you want 2 at bats. And then you want just kind of the people that are maybe going to go a little bit more overlooked, like not quite as big of a household name. I mean, like, for example, we talked about with Ohtani, like he's obviously great, but there's going to be so much variance. I would rather just not have the guy that everyone is going to go to. You can kind of make the same argument for someone like Fernando Tatis from the National League. But yeah, I think you're expecting an extra at bat for guys that start, and then you're kind of just trying to get ones that aren't quite as popular.
What is your thought process on getting to bench players, getting to non-starting pitchers, relievers, etc.? How do you look to fill out the rest of your roster?
So I think looking toward like ideally you're going to get just cheap hitters that are in the starting lineup. For example, I think you can take advantage of a $5,200 Cedric Mullins batting 9th, but replacing Mike Trout in the American League starting lineup. That'll open up some stuff for you. Max Muncy's $5,800. He is, I think, hitting second for the National League. So I still think that there's cheap hitters that you can go to. But if you like in larger field tournaments, I'm still okay with using, like 1 or 2 reserve hitters, expecting them to get 1 at bat. So, like they're getting half the plate appearances that you're expecting the starters to get, but you're also just going to get a lot of people just not even considering guys coming off the bench, and the ownership probably in a lot of cases is going to outweigh the, for lack of a better word, the lower projection, because there's just going to be so much volatility there.
There are going to be so many guys that are just simply unowned that are like fantastic plays because of that, just by default, knowing nothing else. Just so crazy to think about. Anybody at a price tag where you're just like, man, I can't imagine I get to that all that frequently?
No, because I mean the guys at the top, like Fernando Tatis obviously is great. Ohtani's obviously great. But again, like as a general rule, I would be inclined not to be going to those guys as often, just because, you know, not even the salary so much. You know, obviously you might have to sacrifice like a little bit in your lineup, but like we'd said before, it's easy enough to get who you want in there. But it's more just that there's no real difference between Fernando Tatis and someone else, you know, Rafael Devers or Vlad Guerrero or Aaron Judge, like any of these guys in a 1 or 2 at bat sample size. It's the same for all intents and purposes.
Yeah.
And people are going to click the top guys first.
Are you even looking at salary in the aggregate for your lineup?
No, couldn't care less.
Okay.
I think if you're probably better off using some sort of metric like total plate appearance, expected plate appearances over salary, because the only reason I would care about salary is if you assume that the starters are priced the most expensive, which isn't even necessarily the case. Like it's basically a proxy for how many at-bats you can expect for guys. But I would rather just do something where my laptop might be about to die.
Fantastic. I could definitely carry an all-star game show by myself.
I'll figure that out in a second. But
sure.
The only real function I think salary serves is as a proxy for expected lineup or expected plate appearances. And I don't think it's even that good of a proxy. Like you would definitely be better off just saying, like, you know, making a quick table and saying, I expect these guys are starting. I expect them to hit twice. These guys are on the bench. I expect them to hit once. This lineup has X number of at-bats. That's all I really care about.
Any guesses as to what the optimal lineup spent in salary in 2019?
No.
39,800.
Yeah, that's not very high.
The third most optimal lineup, which is a fantasy point behind that, was 35,200. It left $14,800 on the table. The moral of this story is you do not have to look at the salary number in aggregate. These are just some of the totals of the actual scores from that game. 39-8, 39 flat, 35-2. We get to 41-9, super expensive. 41-1, 41-3. It's just, it should not even be a thing for you to pay attention to. The final thing we need to touch on, and this is going to be a little bit different between DraftKings and FanDuel. How do you handle additional pitchers? Is that a strategy that you want to get more than one and hope for, you know, people thinking, oh, this game is in Coors, we're going to have a ton of runs? Is going to multiple pitchers in the lineup an interesting proposition for you? Because on FanDuel, there are no pitchers.
So on FanDuel, if you can get 2 pitchers in, you're being contrarian. But on DraftKings, I just don't really see the point. Like if you, and these names are just the first ones I clicked on to kind of test out what your lineup would look like. But let's say you put Zach Wheeler and Corbin Burns, who are both 4,800 in at utility. You plug in the most expensive captain, which is Tatis. You have $8,366 per lineup position. So you can essentially get whatever hitters you want. But it just goes back to what we were talking about. Like the quote unquote top hitters here just are just very, very, very marginally better than anyone else. I don't want to sacrifice 2 roster spots on a guy that's probably going to throw 1 inning. You know, as soon as if he gives up a run, he's dead. If he doesn't strike out 2+ guys, he's dead. And, you know, so it's, to me, not worth it, especially because I expect, you know, and again, this goes back to earlier, like, I think that there's more upside in your 1 at bat from a bench hitter than in your 1 inning from a pitcher. You know, like the pitcher can only score basically a double's worth of points in 1 inning.
You got to have the, you need Shane Bieber's line.
Right, which is 8.25 points. So you're getting base, you know, what, an RBI double and a run scored in your 1 at bat beats that. I would rather just be rotating through like every hitter because someone off the bench is going to do that. I'd rather be rotating through those guys than the pitchers because, again, it's just the ceiling is capped. Like there's the pitcher can't do any better than that. I guess that there could be a drop third strike so he can get 4 strikeouts. But
good luck.
Yeah, you're not doing any better than that. Whereas whoever hits a pinch hit home run is in the optimal lineup.
Yep, absolutely. JG said, any pitchers with a chance to go more than 1 inning? I would say no.
I don't think so. When did that stop, by the way?
I don't know. No one threw more than an inning in 2019, and I don't get the sense that like they're going to be running people out for long stints.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Like, there's no chance. I don't think there's any chance in hell Ohtani does. Scherzer maybe punches the manager instead of coming out, but I'm guessing it's just because teams started to be more cognizant of arm injuries and stuff like that. But when we were kids, it was definitely like 3 or 4 innings from the starters. I thought.
That's the way that I remember it. So let's go ahead and look back. I'm going to go to the 1999 All-Star Game. 4-1 AL. Curt Schilling threw 2 innings to start. Pedro Martinez and David Cohn both threw 2 innings as well for the AL. They were the only guys to go more than 1, but even still, they went more than 1. Yeah. It's not happening. I'd be shocked. Most teams don't want anybody coming back out for a second inning.
Yeah, like imagine, like the Nats front office and manager is not watching this game going, I really want to see another Max Scherzer inning here.
No, they don't want to see the first Max Scherzer inning.
Right. They would love Scherzer to wake up today and just be like, my neck's a little stiff. I'm not going to play.
Yeah, more than anything in the world. Anything else you want to touch on from DraftKings? Anything we haven't talked about yet?
I don't think so. I mean, I guess just to recap from like a general overview, to me, this – and baseball's kind of like this in general, but obviously not to this extreme. I really just could not care less about the names on these players. It's or their regular season stats or what you think of them as a player. Like to me, there is no looking at this and saying, "Oh, Shohei Ohtani matches up really well against Max Scherzer. I think he's going to hit a home run in his 1 plate appearance." Like to me, it's insane. Like maybe you'll see people saying stuff like that throughout the day, but to me, it's insane. Like I literally do not care who it is. I just want the lowest owned guys that are getting the most plate appearances, whatever that ends up being. Like that's basically how I would weight my lineups. Like during the regular season, maybe you're using ISO, maybe you're using medium projection, maybe you're using top stack percentage. Here, it would literally be ownership, expected plate appearances. What lineups give me the best combination of the two?
DraftKings with the $250K All-Star Showdown, $50K to first for tonight. What's your assumption here? Outright winner? Duplications can't be high here, right?
I don't think they'll be that high because there's so much variance. There's so much just random shit that's going to happen. Chalk would have to win. Like Ohtani would have to go yard. Right, yeah. Like if Ohtani and Tatis both lead off the game with home runs, then maybe you get some dupe lineups. But assuming that baseball happens tonight, I think it's pretty hard to do, at least in any meaningful way. I mean, maybe there's a few lineups that overlap, but
like Craig Kimbrell strikes out the side and Zunino goes yard for like a 3-run dong, and all of a sudden it's just you're not in a group with a lot of duplication.
Right. And then you factor in the effect that the captain spot has in terms of increasing your options. So I'd be pretty surprised if there's I'd be very surprised if you get everyone won the Millie Maker today. Like that's gonna happen.
Rest of the schedule for today. We don't have a ton of stuff going on, but we do have more content. 1 p.m. Eastern Time, PGA Strategy Show. Ben Raza, Jason Roslin breaking down the Open Championship, which I don't want to call it, but technically that is the name. It is the British Open for anybody that actually cares. And then at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, an hour before lock tonight, MLB Live before lock. Eric and Greg breaking it all down again, taking your questions. Full hour of content in the lead up to the All-Star Game. You don't want to miss any of that good stuff, and you're in luck. MLB player projections, free today. Who doesn't like free things? I know I do. PGA top golfers as well. I didn't spell golfers correctly in my run sheet, but it's fine for me. I'm the only one reading it. PGA top golfers, free as well. I know I love the top stacks tool and the top pitchers tool for baseball. Top golfers tool for golf is massive. I highly recommend that you guys go check that out. We're going to transition. Before we get to FanDuel, I got to hit you with a couple PrizePicks potential here. And I want to know which way you're going. And the way that we're starting this is a way that we weren't able to talk about before. PrizePicks has Shohei Ohtani at 9 fantasy points as a pitcher. Would you be interested in taking the over or the under on Shohei Ohtani's fantasy points as a pitcher? Again, we're not including hitters, trying to make that clear for everybody.
Did you say 9?
9.
Under?
Sure. I don't disagree with you. I would have also done the same thing. Oh, not only is it not 9 any longer, it was 9 before we started this show. It is now up to 10.
So I feel like I'm missing something. Shohei Ohtani's fantasy points as a pitcher.
Now let me hit you with this. This is PrizePicks scoring. So let me give you the scoring. 6 points for the win.
Not going to happen.
You would think no. 4 points for a quality start. That one I can guarantee you're not getting. -3 for the earned run. 3 points for a strikeout. 1 point for an out. So if you strike out the side, we're talking about 12 fantasy points.
And if you only strike out 2, you're not
getting. That's 9.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. To me, that was unquestioned. I would have I liked it at 9. I certainly like it at 10. But then we also have the follow-up of 2.5 fantasy points as a hitter. By the way, FanDuel scoring here.
Yeah. So 2.5 fantasy points as a hitter for Ohtani?
Yes.
I would still take the under.
And just for people that don't know, 3 points for the single, 5 for a double, 8 for a triple, 10 for a home run. You get 2 for a walk, 2 for a run, 2 for an RBI, 2 for a hit by a pitch. So basically, he just needs to do something.
Yeah, but 65% of the time, he's not going to.
No, not at all. I mean, you hit the single, any hit, you're aces. If you walk, you need to do something else. Bothers me that you don't get there on the walk, but that's neither here nor there. I've got one more prize pick for you. This one's kind of interesting to me. I picked him just randomly, but there were a couple others that were similar to this one. Is it gone now? Wow, how much has this changed? Oh, no, there it is. All right. So,
way to do your prep work.
So I went with Josh Hader at 6 fantasy points over or under. You could also do that for Liam Hendricks, Rodon, Wheeler, Corbin Burns, Cole. All of these pitchers are set at 6 fantasy points. Would you be looking to take any of those guys for an over?
No.
Yeah, I'm with you. Although 6 is 1 strikeout, 3 outs. You don't have to worry about giving up any hits or anything.
Oh, that's yeah. So
that pushes at 6 though. So it's still not even like
there's a good chance Hader's getting more than 1 strike, or a decent chance he's getting more than 1 strikeout.
Okay. Guys, make sure you are going to check out the presenting sponsor of this show, PrizePicks. Again, you don't have to worry about sharks or optimizers or mass entry. You just pick 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 of the players that are available on the board to go over or under their projected score. If you correctly pick a 5-player lineup, you can get up to 10x your entry fee, whether that's NBA, MLB, WNBA, NFL, or esports. You got all those options. You can download the app in the App Store or in Google Play. Either way, this one's the biggie here. You ready? Awesemo is the promo code. On your first deposit, you can get an instant match deposit bonus of up to $100 and an entry into their free $1 million NBA playoff challenge. That's pretty tasty as far as I'm concerned. But anytime you can get these instant match deposit bonuses, deposit the $100 and get the 100 back. You will never get a better deal than a full match of up to $100. You're going to get into contests that pay out a much smaller EV than just simply doing that. So honestly, take advantage of it. Use that promo code Awesemo at PrizePicks. Get yourself some free money on that first batch or on that first deposit. Ready to talk a little bit of FanDuel?
My favorite.
I figured as much. FanDuel, very, very different mechanism than DraftKings. Changes up the strategy. For one, there are no pitchers available. You're not rostering anybody that's throwing the ball, I guess technically except for Shohei Ohtani, but you don't get those points. But he will be pitching. You've got an MVP spot where you get 2 times the fantasy points. You get the star spot where you get 1.5 times the fantasy points. You fill out with 3 additional utility plays, but salary does not change. Whoever you roster at MVP doesn't have a multiplier on their salary. They just enter the lineup straight away. How does the FanDuel experience change to you in comparison to DraftKings?
I don't think it really does.
Okay.
Because from just like a general strategy standpoint, to me, it's still pretty much the same. Like salary is not a big factor on DraftKings. It's less of a factor on FanDuel since, the MVP isn't any more expensive. But you're still just, I think, looking to maximize plate appearances while minimizing ownership. To me, it's the same thing. Like you're just looking in this format to take advantage of all of the volatility that's going to exist in this game. And, it's kind of the same thing. Like people are probably going to say Tatis, MVP, Ohtani, MVP, Guerrero, MVP, when they are just very, very marginally better than any other hitter that's going to get 2 plate appearances. So I think from a strategy standpoint, the lineup's different. You don't have to worry about pitchers. You don't have to worry about salary at all, or close to it all. But I think it's still the same game, basically.
Michael Brantley in the MVP spot in 2019 was the optimal. Gary Sanchez at the star. Gallo, Alonso, Charlie Blackmon rounded out that lineup. Brantley in that game, 1 at bat, 1 hit, a double with an RBI. So at 4,500 for Michael Brantley, all he did was hit a double that scored a run, and he was the optimal MVP for the slate.
Right. And so, again, assuming there's more runs scored in cores, that you're probably not going to win with a double. But it does go back to, I think, the overall point. When you think about an all-star game, when you think about all the power hitters there, Michael Brantley is not the guy that you're just like, oh, he's going to be the top scoring hitter. But even if we assume that you need more than a double to win, the guys like Michael Brantley are still – they don't have nearly as much power, of course, as players like Guerrero and Tatis and Ohtani. But you're talking about the difference between 1 home run in 4.5 at bats or 5 at bats and 1 home run in 7 or 8 at bats, like during the regular season for a lot of these guys. When you're talking about a 1 at bat sample size, it just doesn't matter. Or a 2 at bat sample size, it doesn't matter. And whatever difference there is in terms of likelihood of them hitting the home run and being the guy you need is typically going to be offset by the ownership, because the guys that are in that category of 1 home run in every 4.5 or 5 at bats are the ones that everyone is clicking into their lineup.
100%. And someone like Brantley, who was 4,500 last year, that's $500 above the minimum. That lets you know everybody is wide open in any one of these spots. Now, you probably should be shooting to get guys in the MVP and star spot that you expect to get 2 plate appearances for sure. Brantley certainly was not one of those guys last year, but it worked out. But you are also expecting probably 2.5, 3 more runs just in general in this game. As you look through the salaries, we've got Vlad Guerrero at 9,500. We've got Tatis at 9K. We've got Ohtani at 8,500 and Freeman at 8K. And then we're already down to 7,500. That's only 3,500 north of the minimum. Once you get out of that upper tier, everybody pretty much looks the same. Does anybody stand out to you? I mean, obviously, again, price is not going to matter all that much. The optimal lineup in 2019 was $29,500 on a $35,000 cap. They left a full player off of the lineup if you needed to. How does that change what you want to do? Does getting to someone like Guerrero or Tatis in the MVP or star spot feel more important here on FanDuel than it does on DraftKings because there is no change in salary?
No, because I think it's just going to end up being offset by ownership. I mean, if you're trying to point out one salary that looks crazy, Max Muncy is hitting 2nd, and he's 4K. But
there you go.
It doesn't matter. But
here's the question for you. Let me follow up with this. Do you think that will ultimately make him a bad play?
I was just kind of thinking that because, on the one hand, he's really, really cheap, and if this were a slate where you're going to end up just playing lineups that are $59,000 or more in salary, he would be really, really, really useful. Well, if pricing were set up like that, if this were a regular season slate, he would be the highest owned guy on the slate.
Yeah,
but it's not, and you're going to be able to do whatever you want. That the thing that makes me think maybe he still does get a ton of ownership is just that he's batting 2nd, and so it's not like he's going to go overlooked because he's batting 7th or something. He's a really, really good hitter batting 2nd. So you probably will still get a decent amount of ownership there. There's also the chance though that like anybody hand building lineups just probably isn't going to scroll down.
That's a good point. Well, yeah, I mean, you're probably right there. Although I would say that people will probably be looking for the batting order indicators as they are scrolling down. So maybe that's is the spot.
Those will, I'm assuming, be added in. Right now, they're not. So like,
right
when you scroll down, it's just a mess of names and guys not playing. And you just before you get the Muncy, you're just like, okay, whatever. But yeah, I mean, Muncy's down there. Mullins is 4K, but I wouldn't be surprised if Mullins only gets one at bat since he's batting ninth. But either way, yeah, I mean, I think Mullins in terms of salary stands out, but there is a decent chance he gets a lot more ownership than he should.
You are a fantastic homer for recommending Mullins on both DraftKings and FanDuel today. I think might be the only guy whose name you said.
It is not often that you get one of the most valuable players in baseball at minimum salary.
I don't even have the good joke for it because I know Trout's not playing. I was going to be like, oh, they made Trout the minimum, but it's neither here nor there.
Trout actually replaced by someone who is beating him who's more valuable than him.
That's whatever. I'll let you have this one. I know you need to feel good about it. Anybody else that stands out to you other than Max Muncy? Because obviously that salary for the guy hitting second, you have to assume Max Muncy is going to bat twice. That's an incredible value. The question is, does it matter? Because points per dollar is like today is the least valuable points per dollar slate of the year.
Yeah, it doesn't matter at all. The reason I think it matters is, again, he's batting second, so he's as likely as anyone really to get multiple plate appearances in this game. That's what matters to me. It's not really the point per dollar. It's, a really good play. One other one that does stand out, and I'd seen it mentioned in YouTube chat, and I agree. Again, like I don't think it will end up mattering because I doubt he gets 3 plate appearances, and I never thought he would only get 1. But it would be really surprising to me if Nolan Arenado does not get more than 1 plate appearance here in Colorado.
Yeah, that would be surprising. He is hitting third, so that makes it a lot easier. I would say, 2 feels like a lock, right?
If there is one guy that, like Carlos Santana last time, that gets 3 plate appearances, I think it's Arenado.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Who do the
Arenado right now priced at 7,500? Not that you should care. Does that make him? Obviously people are going to be going to him because it's him, but does that make him like the, in theory, most valuable MVP play? Does he have the highest expectation of playing time, or does that still go to either Tatis or Ohtani?
No, I think it's Arenado because like there's no like you could. I'd be really surprised if Ohtani gets 3 plate appearances. You could get 3 from Tatis, like for marketing reasons and whatever else. But we
need to have a little bit of a conversation here. Why does Nolan Arenado matter?
What do you mean?
Why does he matter today for you?
Oh, you like what? Like why do I think that he's the slightly more likely to get a 3rd plate appearance than anyone else?
Yes,
because up until this year he was on the Rockies and he's still a fan favorite in Coors Field, and the Rockies don't have a hitter in the game.
It took me until right now to remember that he's no longer on the Rockies, and that I wasn't pushing for that. I knew it. But when I was talking it through, it was just like, oh yeah, like they're going to give him the home bump, but at the same time, there's no home bump.
Yeah, but I still think that there is.
I agree, though.
The Rockies representative here is German Marquez, so there's no other batter. There's and it's not like Arenado, left on bad terms as far as I know. Like he's still a fan favorite in Colorado.
Oddly enough, Nolan Arenado is the only guy showing up with a batting order on FanDuel right now, at least for me. Oh no, they all do now. If you refresh it, it's all in there. We spoke that into existence. Yeah. So I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom and let's start working our way from top to bottom so Brian Reynolds hitting 8th flat minimum, Cedric Mullins hitting 9th flat minimum, Muncy hitting 2nd flat minimum, should stick out like a sore thumb at that point. And then you get all the way up to 50. So you jump all the way to 5,500 for Adam Frazier hitting 9, Real Muto hitting 7, Perez hitting 7. $6,500 Xander Bogaerts standing out a lot to me. It's like that price tag is low enough. But again, I don't even know why I look at it. I might as well just tape over that section of the screen because you can roster whoever you want.
Right. Like if you go Guerrero, Tatis, Ohtani as your first three guys in, it still leaves you 4K per player. So then you go down, you put in Muncy, you put in either Mullins or Reynolds. But outside of that, it just isn't really going to matter.
Are you thinking at all about stacking in a game like this for the way you would put together your MVP and star spots?
I think it's actually a really good question. I hadn't really thought about it too much, but yeah. So
talk to me more about how this is a good question.
I think maybe, do you think maybe there's like an edge if you actually get a little bit deeper into it? Like in a regular season game, of course, you're just saying like, give me 5 guys from the American League, but doing something where it's like, give me stacking starters from the same team, because like it's not necessarily doing you any good, because the whole idea, is behind stacking is that you're getting more plate appearances for guys, which is mitigated by this format, the All-Star game format. And then, the correlation between runs, but the correlation between runs isn't going to exist between Shohei Ohtani and some pinch hitter in the 7th inning for the American League, because Ohtani's a little long gone at that point. So I think if you're stacking, you do. So one, it's not, I don't think it's as necessary, because again, if someone hits a pinch hit home run in this game, it's not going to matter what your stack is. Like, you need that guy. So I don't think it's like essential. Like it could be argued that it is during the regular season, whole different conversation. But I do think if you're going to do it, you want to focus a little bit more and make sure that you're actually stacking guys that make sense and not just saying, oh, they're on the same team. You want to be getting guys that are starting the game and hitting near each other.
Yeah, like if you're going to the combo of Max Muncy, Freddie Freeman or something, MVP star, I think that's reasonable. 2 guys near each other in the order. Opportunities to knock people in and then score on the follow-up. You'd be looking at something like Freeman in that scenario as the MVP option, or however you wanted to do it. But actually, to me, that feels right. Stacking the MVP and star.
Someone in chat wants to know if we think they pitch more than 2 innings, in case we hadn't covered that yet.
No, I don't think they pitch more than 1. All right. So did Garrett? All right. So Brantley and Sanchez were the optimal MVP and star in 2019. Where were they in the lineup? Question? So where did Brantley hit? All right. So
Brantley.
Okay. So Brantley hit 8th. Gary Sanchez hit 7th. So they're not. Did Sanchez score on Brantley's hit? He must have.
Probably.
Okay. Yeah. So slight stack there of Sanchez and Brantley.
No, he didn't. He
didn't?
No.
He definitely scored.
A little by Polanco.
Oh, well, there you go. So the stack was irrelevant then.
Well, Polanco batted 9th. So, it was still there.
Right, but Brantley and Sanchez is the MVP star.
Yeah, no. What I was saying was there was still that correlation where Polanco drove him in. Polanco just ended up not beating Brantley.
Right, for sure. Polanco is in the 3rd most optimal lineup, 4 points behind, which you'd still be happy to have. But I do think there's probably a little bit of marginal gain to combining those 2 guys.
Yeah. Brantley drove in Bregman, who was hitting just ahead of Sanchez.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I don't hate that. Getting 2 guys close in the order that you think are going to get 2 plate appearances is probably the optimal move for allocating MVP and star. And you don't have to, you can get there in so many different ways. Like if you just want that to be Castellanos and Jesse Winker or something, that's also very easy to do, that I would imagine nobody else is going to have. There are 21,450 entries into this FanDuel contest, 20K up top. I think you're going to zip through it, no problem. Are there any final thoughts you want to touch on for FanDuel before we get out of here?
So just as a general thing that's being talked about in YouTube chat right now, and that I think is a good point that we didn't specifically mention. You could make a case that catchers play more innings. But
Yeah.
again, even looking at, the last one, 2 plate appearances for Sanchez, 1 for McCann, 2 plate appearances for Contreras, 1 for Grandal. So you still didn't get it. It didn't turn into extra plate appearances, even though that is like the hardest position to fill in terms of playing time.
Yeah. Perez and Real Muto both hitting 7th. Going to be real tough to get through that order 3 times to get them up that extra time. So I think you would need to see one of those guys hitting like 1st or 2nd to really get a chance at that 3rd plate appearance.
Agreed.
All right. I've got nothing else. Final thoughts. This is the question everybody's been waiting for. Who wins the All-Star game? And tell me why it's the AL because of Cedric Mullins.
Yeah, I was going to say Cedric Mullins probably either homers or singles, steals second, third, and home, and ends up being the MVP.
You should watch the breakfast menu where I give out AL -1 along with Vlad Guerrero Jr. to hit a home run. That's my line on the All-Star game for today. Best I could do. That's it. Anything else you want to touch on before we get out of here?
If I had to actually take a lean on who wins, I would go toward the National League just because I think there's a decent chance Ohtani sucks in the first inning.
There it is, everybody. Fade Ohtani. Adam said it here. That's the biggest takeaway for this show. Thank you so much for joining us. And thanks again to PrizePicks for being the presenting sponsor of this show. Make sure you're watching MLB Live before lock later tonight at 6:30. Make sure you're definitely watching the PGA Strategy Show for the British Open at 1. Good luck tonight, everybody. Enjoy yourselves. No baseball tomorrow. It's a freebie day, but we've got the Game 4 of the NBA Finals to fill the void. And then Adam and I believe, are back on Thursday for the classic 1-game MLB slate. So make sure you're tuning in. Good luck, everybody. We're out of here. Have fun.